you hear me?
Yeah.
Everybody good? I'm gonna take this opportunity this afternoon to thank the League of Women Voters. Thank you as citizens of this county for the democratic process. I want to thank John Ledford tonight. If it hadn't been for him in 2009 making the recommendations to the executive committee, I wouldn't be sitting here today. And I want to thank you executive committee members who chose me to fill out his term. And I want to thank all the citizens of Madison County who in 2010 elected me to be your sheriff. And as your sheriff, I've not always been perfect. Don't claim to be, never have claimed to be. But I've tried to be a leader in this county to the best of my ability. I have strived every day to put people before politics. That has come from a struggle of years. I've tried to gain leadership from others. I've tried to break down barriers. I've tried to unite people. It's come from a struggle, with a struggle. But I know how to treat people in this county. I'm not a politician. Y'all knew that when you elected me. When you did, the statement was once made, well, you're not much of a politician. I know I'm not much of a politician, but I know how to treat people in Madison County.
Good evening, everyone. I too would like to thank the League of Women's Voters for the opportunity to be here tonight to address such a fine-looking group of people. And I will commend everyone here tonight for turning out, because it speaks highly of the democratic process. It's an honor to be back in Madison County. Even though my opponent holds the title of sheriff, I am the retired sheriff of Madison County, and I always will be allowed to call myself that. I'm here tonight, and I'm running for this office for two main reasons. My love of Madison County and my love of law enforcement. Over the past 4 years, I've spoken to many citizens of Madison County who are concerned about the direction of the sheriff's department and who have asked me to once again run for this office. Under my leadership, the sheriff's department will focus on one thing: constituent service. I believe in a well-trained, community-oriented, property-oriented police focused on all types of solving the problems of Madison County. I found these concepts to work well in Madison County. They were what I employed during my almost 11 years I served as your sheriff. I also believe the law enforcement has a duty to not only aggressively enforce the law, but to aggressively educate our young people, particularly those in high school age, as to what the law is and requires, and the consequences of violating those laws. Our goal should not be to arrest the young, but to educate them so there is no need to arrest. I believe the sheriff of a small county must be a peace officer, not only a law enforcement officer, but a counselor and an advisor. He must be accessible to the citizens of this county and must be held accountable for failure to be accessible. The sheriff needs to be a problem solver and someone who is willing to work hard for all the citizens of Madison County. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you very much. This will be directed, of course, to both candidates. Can you hear me in the back? No. What? Can you hear me now?
Not very well.
Can you hear me now?
A little bit.
All right, we will direct this, and we'll start with Mr. Ledford. This will be directed to both candidates. What are your views on the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution?
I assume that's referring to gun rights. It's a pretty broad-ended question. I believe that citizens of Madison County should have the right to bear arms. I'm a gun owner, support the Second Amendment. I feel like we've got enough laws on the book. I think that what we need to do is aggressively enforce the laws that are written as far as the Second Amendment goes. You know, the sheriff of Madison County is not a person who sets the rules, but he is a person who enforces the rules. And he has to be willing to do so regardless of what his personal beliefs are. And that's what I've always tried to do and always will strive to do. So I hope that answers the question. I hope that's what it means when they ask about Second Amendment rights.
I too am a supporter of the Second Amendment rights. I believe guns placed in the hands of good people is a good thing. But I further believe that guns placed in the hands of bad people is not a good thing. As long as you meet the criteria set by the state of North Carolina and you're not a convicted felon, I think you should have a right to possess 1 gun to 100 guns if you want.
Let's try this again. All right, each of you have been sheriff of our county for more than 1 term. What are your career aspirations beyond Madison County Sheriff? And we'll go to Mr. Harwood.
My career aspirations after I'm sheriff should be the following. Be a missionary, do the Lord's work, and move on. I know that my time will come. If John's fortunate enough to get elected, his time will come and go as sheriff. Being the sheriff of Madison County is a great honor, a privilege. If there is life other than being the sheriff of Madison County, I want to focus more on that homeland where I'm headed one day. I'm no longer the sheriff of Madison County.
You know, my whole life, since I entered law enforcement, has been trying to work up to the next level. I dedicated myself to that at every turn. And with each level of promotion that came, it didn't come without cost. You know, being elected sheriff of Madison County at a young age, only 33 years of age, I grew up as a sheriff. I was elected at 33 and woke up one day and I was 44. I had the privilege of the governor of the state of North Carolina calling me and asking me to come to Raleigh. And I went. And you know, I didn't ever look at it like I left Madison County. My phone number never changed. My phone rang from people in Madison County weekly, if not daily. I worked diligently with the governor's office and in the legislature with people like Ray Rapp, trying to help people in Madison County. I said being an advocate, I'm back. You know, if he'd never left home to join the military or go away to college, as I had not. And we found out very quickly, the grass is usually greener on the other side. The day I got to Raleigh, I wanted to come back to Madison County. My opponent and I had discussions of that in the past. There's absolutely no doubt that everyone knew I was coming back to Madison County. My goal was to become the next sheriff of Madison County and to retire as the sheriff of Madison County. And those that know me doesn't mean that's going to be at 55 years of age. It's however long people in this county will continue to elect me. I may be the next Eli. I may actually be that old if the Lord will let me serve that long. But I don't have goals after that. I intend to be the sheriff of the county and retire as sheriff of the county. And whatever time the county decides, I will retire. Thank you.
Who currently provides the meals for the jail? What is the price per inmate? And why is the new kitchen in the jail not in operation? And we'll start. Sheriff Harwood.
Well, first of all, the new jail is in operation. Meals on Wheels use that jail on a daily basis. Second of all, I buy the meals right now from store right here where we've got the washout for $3.25 per meal. Once the jail was built, our jail folks was originally built for a 168-bed facility. We have done the cost analysis is at 100. You start to reduce those food costs. Anything less than 100, your food cost is going to be higher. We're using the jail. I can feed a prisoner for $9.75 a day. I can't hire 4 cooks, pay FICA, pay insurance, and all the retirement for $9.75 a day.
I'm going to give you a complex answer that's fairly simple. First of all, the jail's not comes to dealing with the jail, they're paying $3.25 a day for the meals that are hauled from Blue Flame to the jail, which is less than a half a mile at best. The Yancey County Sheriff's Office has a contract with the Blue Flame to provide meals to them for $3.25 a day, and they are also incurring almost 120 miles a day round trip mileage. So I would tell you that that's not a real good deal if they're only going a mile across the street from the jail, and it's costing the same thing it would be to deliver to Yancey County. Those jail costs could go down. Doing my research as I have, there's a method out now called the cook, chill, and rethermalization method. It's being used in jails throughout this country. It involves a minimum amount of staff, such as used for our senior citizens, to prepare meals. That meal is then hyper-frozen, if you would call it. Minimal cost to start it up, and can be stored in the coolers and freezers that should be on staff at the jail now. It should be there at the jail. It can be used to provide meals minimal cost to the employees, probably cutting it in half, if not better. The beauty of that is, if you use the cooks who are doing this type of method, the cooks there now to do this type of method, you could also use these meals to be prepared for senior citizens meal sites. I've spoken quite extensively to Sheriff Banks in Yancey County. Their jail has no kitchen. So we could actually go into the business of preparing these meals in our jail, cutting the cost, and be providing meals to them and making a profit. There's a lot of things you can do if you've been exposed to these different things. Unfortunately, as Director of Alcohol Law Enforcement, I have been exposed to those. So that's what I would tell you. I'd bring the jail on up to staff, up to speed, minimal cost to start up, and try to make a business out of it. So the jail becomes a bigger profit. Thank you.
How many federal prisoners do you house at the jail, and how much money does the department make yearly by housing these prisoners? Sheriff Harwood.
We're currently housing, today, I think we've got 30 federal inmates up there at the county jail at $60 per day. What was the rest of that I was looking?
How much money does the department make yearly by housing the prisoners?
Last year, based upon budget figures, we increased our revenues last year by $688,000.
I'd just like to point out that I'm the one that began the program to house federal inmates. It originally came with the idea that the Madison County Sheriff's Department was underpaid. And I negotiated a contract with the then Board of Commissioners to allow that money to be earmarked to go to equalize salaries. That's how the road deputies, telecommunicators, detention officers, detectives, they came up to what was considered a median salary for this area. I'll tell you that housing federal prisoners is a great thing, as long as it doesn't interfere with the need to house our local prisoners. Just because you have a jail at holding capacity of 70 does not mean that that's always the best thing to do. I would like the sheriff, first thing I'm going to do is look at the ratio of inmate to detention officer staff, because that's regular. And I want to make sure it's safe for our detention officers to work in there. I want to make sure that our probation officers, our local officers, if they need somebody to be confined, or feel strong enough that a secure bond should be set, that person is detained, and not released in exchange for a federal prisoner, just because the federal prisoners make it more. So I'll remind you that the federal inmate housing was started under me. I began the program, signed the initial contract with Chief Deputy Lee Banks.
What is the county law enforcement's role in discouraging littering along our beautiful scenic byways? And what additional tools does the Sheriff's Department need to prosecute violators?
We currently work with the landfill on a weekly basis, sometimes daily basis, on him calling and reporting waste sites, dump sites. We have citizens that call in on a weekly basis about these dump sites. We send a detective out or a road deputy out, and if we can find some evidence with your name on it, we're going to come pay you a visit. Unfortunately, sometimes we don't find that evidence, and the cost is up to the county to clean that up. I wish we had more vigilant people out there watching these people who dump stuff, because these folks that will dump anything, anywhere in this county. And getting back, if I may, I've still got just a little time to that food. We have checked with a number of folks, a number of vendors on processed food. State of North Carolina requires that I give you between 21 and 2,500 calories per meal. My inmates in the county jail are eating the same food that you eat if you went to the Blue Flame restaurant. They're not eating some processed or packaged food.
When I first was elected sheriff in 1998, I believe the county had a litter officer. I remember Mr. Morgan, I believe, was a litter officer. He worked litter enforcement. Shortly thereafter, the responsibilities, that position was given to the Madison County Sheriff's Department. We assumed the responsibilities for the enforcement of litter laws. Littering, depending on the amount of litter, either a misdemeanor crime or it's a felony crime. And so what we always did is, when I served as sheriff, patrol deputies took the initial reports, conducted the investigation, as long as it was not substantial enough to warrant it being turned over to the detective. Felony crimes lie within the jurisdiction of law enforcement. So I can't imagine that I would do a whole lot different than what Sheriff Harwood has said. I think the key thing to that is you have to have, citizens have to have confidence that you're going to enforce litter laws, and be encouraged to call those complaints in, either to the landfill or to the sheriff's dispatch, and the deputies need to promptly respond to that. We will try to enforce the law. Thank you.
Mr. Ledford, we'll go to you first here. Please describe in detail the types of state and federal grants you have written and received during your tenure as sheriff.
I've only got 3 minutes.
Two minutes.
2 minutes, I'm sorry, okay. When I came in as sheriff in 1998, under the Clinton administration, there were a number of grants available, and we went to work on it. The first grant I remember writing was for, we were one of only 2 counties, I believe, in the state at that time that not built a uniform crime report, so we wrote a grant for that, the governor's block grant. I received funding for UCR equipment and computers, Southern software. The Governor's Crime Commission has always been a source of grant money for local law enforcement, and I made good use of that. We wrote grants for crime scene investigator vehicles, upgraded the repeater site on Rich Mountain. We found out there was a need for a repeater site on Rich Mountain. We wrote that grant. We wrote grants for polygraphs, for vehicles. I got the first drug investigator, full-time drug investigator position through the Governor's Crime Commission block grants, the first second crime investigator, and grant through the Governor's Crime Commission. We used bulletproof vest grants through the Department of Justice. I got the first school resource officers through the Thompson Schools grant. I put the school resources that are today at the high school and at the middle school. I wrote a grant for 4 additional patrol officers that patrol the county state for the universal hiring program, better known as the 100,000 police initiative. We bought patrol vehicles from the Highway Patrol. We actually got federal funding for the Viper system through a grant. The firing range today that's upgraded, Congressman Heeshuler helped us with a grant for, I believe it was $40,000 for that, which upgraded the firing range, which is used now not only today by Madison County law enforcement, but Buncombe County, APD, AV Tech, all of that done under my administration. Those are just the grants that I can remember. I'm sure there'll be a few more.
Hey, I can tell you one thing, when it comes time to get grants, John had the resources, the contact and all to get grants, leave it at that. As we all well know, the economy crashed in 2008, grants are a thing that's hard to get. I'm proud of one thing that we have done with our school board and Dr. Wilcox. We were able to fund the money to put a officer in every school in this county. We were able to do that. Hey, grants are hard to get, guys. And one thing you must remember about a grant, grants are all well and good, but at the end of that grant, somebody picks up that funding for that extra officer. Somebody picks up that funding, and it's us as residents pick up that funding. Hey, we get good with grants. It's not all about I, it's we, because he trained me. I was with him for 9 years. It's a we thing. We did this, and I was the first drug enforcement grant officer that he's talking about. It's a we thing.
Can you hear me? Is it on?
Yes.
this one on?
Use it. maybe they're telling him that. That's right. Came here to hear.
Sheriff Harwood, are you willing to freeze your department budget at its current level in order that our schools might offer a supplement to its teachers?
Say what?
Are you ready? Are you willing to freeze your department budget at its current level in order that our schools might offer a supplement to its teachers?
First of all, the county commissioners give me a grant to operate with every year. And as a result of that county grant, if y'all remember March 17th, 2 years ago, we went in a new jail. I had a $474,000 yearly bill attached to that. I don't see anywhere that I can cut my grant to help the teachers at this time, man, because we've got an opportunity to keep the citizens of Madison County safe.
Okay, I need to make something clear. I didn't write that.
Neither did I.
You're on the record there, Rory. That's right. Smart.
I think that's a great question. I was trying to remember what year it was, but when the Madison County school system was talking about building a middle school at Mars Hill, county leaders came to me and said, "Sheriff, can you freeze your budget? Because if you can hold your budget in line, we can build a middle school at Mars Hill." That year, I was able to hold that budget in line. I've taken a pretty hard look at the budget here at Madison County, and I'm not going to tell you it can be cut or frozen, but I can tell you this. Compared to the county of Yancey County, which is smaller in geography, but comparable in population, our budget is about $700,000 a year more than their budget. They've got 36 employees. The best I can count, there are 42 employees currently now at the Madison County Sheriff's Department, which is up 10 to 12 from when I left, and there are 7 part-time employees. I don't know if that budget can be frozen, but I can tell you that I will dedicate myself to do everything I can for the school system in Madison County. If it means freezing the budget, and it can be done, I'd look at that for a year. I couldn't make a long-term commitment on that. So much of what goes on, if you understand the Sheriff's Department budget, is outside of the control of the sheriff. We're housing prisoners, and there's an influx, a large number. Meal costs go up. If I'm able to cut the cost of meals in the kitchen, then that's going to free up more money to maybe go to the school system. Medical costs, that's a tough thing. Almost daily, we did pretrial confinement to decide who were the people or the inmates that were costing us the most money to get them out to save money for the county. So to be able to make a commitment to freeze the budget, while not unreasonable and certainly doable, would take a great deal of luck. But I'm committed to try to do that if it can be done.
All right. Mr. Ledford, as sheriff, do you think arrests in our high schools are a positive way of fighting the war on drugs? And if so, why do you think that way?
I do not. I'll tell you, I've met with some of the parents from the last major drug operation that occurred at Madison High School. Certainly, if a school resource officer encounters a crime being committed in its presence, that has to be dealt with. There's absolutely zero tolerance for that. But to go into the high school with officers from both Madison and Buncombe County with a TV camera in tow and arrest our students for crimes that were committed off campus, I would not participate in that. I didn't believe it was right then. I don't believe it's right now. And here's why. This is a negative message to the populations of the surrounding counties and persons. It looks negatively upon the school system, the administrators, the teachers, everybody, the students who are trying to do it right. There's got to be a simpler way to arrest 5 people. Specifically, when I say again, those crimes didn't occur on school grounds. So I believe I could have took care of that in a whole lot different way and we strive to have done so. That's my personal opinion. Thank you.
And Paul Harvey said, "Now you have the rest of the story." What, John didn't know was that for months, my phone had rung off the hook saying, Sheriff, when are you gonna do something about the pills in Madison County? When are you gonna do something about those high school kids dealing marijuana in the parking lot? When are you gonna do this? When are you gonna do that about pills? They can't go to the bathroom. I'm pulling my child out of, high school because they're dealing dope at the high school. Hey, 100 of us across this state, sheriffs that is, none of us like to go into our county school systems. What was failed to be mentioned on that day, out of those 6 individuals that were arrested, there were 20 other individuals arrested in this county. We had a major drug operation going with Buncombe County. And while we were arresting one of those students at the high school, mother shows up. And that mother is trying to hide her child's drugs in the car. And as your sheriff, I don't like going to the high school because the high school is a place for education. But neither am I going to get 100 phone calls and have our kids overdosed or have a child into a coma because of some type of illicit drug, because that child has taken some type of drug, and I'm trying to think of the new one that's out. There's so many of them out. They're snorting everything anymore. Guys, if we don't take a proactive approach, if parents don't take a proactive approach and help keep our kids safe, if we don't take that proactive approach to keep our drugs out of the school, hey, we're backing up. I don't like to risk kids, but sometimes you've got to. And those.
This question, please. Comment on the number of female law enforcement officers, excluding corrections and dispatch, on your force during your tenure. Do you think there are adequate and appropriate resources to investigate violence against women and children, and how will you improve that situation?
Read the first part of that again.
Please comment on the number of female law enforcement officers, excluding corrections and dispatch, on your force during your tenure.
We currently have one female deputy who works between transports, detention, and this school. We have a number of female deputies that work detention. Hey, I would love nothing greater to hire a female deputy to work the road to be able to invest sex crimes, but good female investigators are worth their weight in gold. We can't get them. Love to have one. And if I'm elected sheriff, we'll still continue to try to find one.
I think that I would answer that question in a couple of ways. When I was elected sheriff in 1998, I brought the first female officer, sworn officer, Madison County, Ms. Robin Michael, that I know of. She was assigned to DARE, but she assisted throughout the department. And as I said before, probably in 2000, 2001, I wrote a grant and received a grant for the first full-time sex crime / domestic violence investigator in the county, recognizing that problem. And had a man that was extensively trained to do that. Sent him to a number of schools. Made sure that he had the proper tools to be able to conduct those types of investigations. He's no longer with the department, and I would certainly try my best to bring him back if I could. I'll say to all of you all that, as Sheriff Harwood has said, it's hard to find good female officers who will work the road in Madison County. You can imagine 450-something square miles of desolate road at night and being the only officer out. And a lot of times, that's not attractive to people. And when we get good officers, one of the things we've always struggled with is retention. I've had female road officers. I think I could sit here thinking maybe 2 or 3. But the problem is when I get one trained, or we get one trained, Buncombe County or another county would bring them away, take them away from us because they can pay them more money. I don't think gender makes a difference to me about
Should our sheriff's department spend so much time pulling vehicles over, or should that be the duty of the North Carolina State Highway Patrol?
I may be being set up on this question, but I think it's well known that I believe the North Carolina State Highway Patrol to be an outstanding law enforcement agency, but their primary area of responsibility is traffic enforcement. I always emphasize with deputy sheriffs and as sheriff, my deputies concentrated on what I believe to be the duties of a sheriff's department: civil process service, warrant service, calls for service, routine random patrol. Certainly my deputies always had the ability to enforce any crime that was in their presence, to include traffic crimes. What I would say to you is this: I do not believe that to be the primary responsibility of the sheriff's department. I believe that we have a number of troopers. When I became sheriff, we had 7 officers, I believe is what I actually had in Madison County. There were that many trooper stations here. So what I would encourage my officers to do would be form good working relationships with the State Highway Patrol. Dispatch would know when the patrol had officers on, troopers who were on duty in the county, and we worked together. Sheriff's Department doing Sheriff's Department areas of responsibility, patrol doing highway patrol areas of responsibility. And both, all of them working together to make Madison County safe. Thank you.
Well, I knew that question was coming. As Madison County Sheriff, we have both subject matter and territorial jurisdiction. North Carolina Highway Patrol does an awesome job of what they do, but they're the North Carolina Highway Patrol. The last time I checked, I didn't arrest someone driving up the road with a load of drugs on a horse. We had to stop that vehicle. We had to make an arrest of that vehicle. Hey, my guys get lectured all the time. We're not the highway patrol. But folks, sometimes you've got to stop a car and apprehend the person in that car to make a lawful arrest. Hey, you're hearing answers here tonight from, hey, he's polished. Politician, he's polished. And you're hearing answers from the heart. We have to stop calling, guys.
All right, Sheriff Harwood, what do you think is the most serious issue that the sheriff must deal with this year? Oh, I'm sorry. What do you think is the most serious issue that the sheriff must deal with this year?
Most serious issues we're dealing right now is drugs. As a result of drugs, we have overdoses. We're dealing with not on, marijuana is called a recreational drug anymore, but in this county we're dealing with heroin, we're dealing with acid, we're dealing with LSD, all these hardcore drugs. And as these drugs come along, more and more drugs, it promotes breaking and enterings, it promotes violence. That's what our biggest concern right now in Madison County is.
I've studied that question a little bit, and I give a 2-part answer. I agree, drugs are always going to be a major issue forever. I think the only way to effectively deal with that issue is it can't all fall to the sheriff's department. It's going to have to be a coalition of police departments and sheriff's departments working together with our school systems, our elected officials, and our leaders within the community, athletics. We've got to try to somehow stem the flow of drugs into the county, enforce the drug laws once they become here, but we've got to educate our youth so that they no longer need drugs or want drugs. The second issue dealing with Madison County is and always will be funding for the Madison County Sheriff's Department. There's not much of it. Schools, I've been reading the News Record Sentinel where they're cutting the school funding. Same way with law enforcement. The monies that were available in 2000 and 2002, 2004 when I was writing these grants, they're not there now. But that doesn't mean we've got to stop trying to locate them. We've got to work together. And I think that goes to also forming coalitions within county government. If we can streamline the process of how government operates in Madison County, we can save the taxpayers' money and become more efficient. So funding and drugs, what I would say, are the 2 biggest problems the sheriff's department will be facing in the coming year.
All right, Mr. Ledford, do you feel that staffing at the sheriff's department is adequate to serve the needs of the people of the county? How many people does the department currently employ?
answer that question this way, there's more staffing there than there's ever been before. There are 42 full-time employees in the sheriff's department and 7 part-time, best I can tell. There are multiple facets of the Madison County Sheriff's Department. Patrol deputies oftentimes have been in the past forced to work alone, so you need to double those up. Nobody wants to be in Madison County that backup. Highway patrol goes home early. So you have to make sure your patrol staff is adequately, your patrol unit is adequately staffed. Detectives, somebody are taking these reports, so somebody's got to conduct the investigation. So you're juggling, trying to decide who's going to conduct which investigation and making sure that people follow up. Detention officers, that's where I've got some concerns, because I've talked to former detention officers working at the Madison County Sheriff's Department. Just because you can house 70 inmates doesn't mean maybe you should house 70 inmates. You've got usually 2 females and 1 male officer per shift at the Madison County Detention Facility. And you're in there with 70 hardened, law-breaking people. Those are federal inmates they're bringing in there, and we don't get to decide what crimes they broke before they were brought into the county. So would you want to be on a night shift in the Madison County Detention Facility with 2 females and a male? I don't know. Maybe. But I'm simply saying to you is this, is that we need to look at all of that. We need to make sure that we're operating as efficiently as possible in each division, patrol, detectives, administration, and detention. We'll try to do the best we can to see that the areas of responsibilities are covered. Thank you.
But I didn't bring these federal inmates in here, but I dealt with the task of housing them. Prior to our jail opening, I received a letter from the North Carolina Jail Association, and we were about to open our jail. The jail inspector tells us that they can't require the number of people for us to hire, but they can make a strong recommendation. The recommendation they made was 24 employees in this new facility. I remember distinctively picking up the phone. Former director and I had a conversation about that. I said, my God, what are we going to do? The county don't have the money to house this type of operation. We don't have the money to hire 24 employees. So what we did was, we figured the minimum amount of employees that we could put on staff to operate that jail efficiently, and that's what we did.
Just a personal point of privilege on that. When we designed the Madison County Sheriff's Department, a new detention facility, I specifically did not take CAP funds, capital building funds from the U.S. Department of Justice, because that would have mandated that we house a certain number of beds or provide a certain number of beds for federal inmates. Now, there may be a contract, I don't know that, but during my tenure dealing with federal inmates, it was up to the sheriff's discretion how many of those inmates were brought into this facility. And I imagine it still would be. So if the number of the ratio of federal inmates to detention officers is too much, reduce the number of federal prisoners. Thank you.
Whether you've got 6 inmates in that jail, whether you're housing 1 female and 5 males, it takes the same amount of personnel to operate that jail. You've got 1 person working at master control 24 hours a day. You've got 1 person booking. You've got 1 person making rounds that have to be made every 30 minutes. If you have a person that's on suicide watch, that round has to be made every 15 minutes. Hey, I've got the least amount working at jail, ladies and gentlemen, that we can have working up there.
And I would say again, if there are too many inmates in the jail, reduce the number of inmates. You still gotta do your job. That doesn't mean you have to oversee that many people.
Sheriff Harwood, what is the current Madison County Sheriff's Department payroll? And are payroll salaries, how are payroll salaries determined?
Say the last, I think we discussed.
How are payroll salaries determined?
My current budget is $2.8 million per year. And I got a 33% increase in my budget when whenever we went into this jail with expenses that was uncontrolled, such as light bills, such as salaries, such as, unemployment insurance is mandated by the state, health insurance, liability insurance, workers' comp insurance. All of these guys have come at a cost. Hey, I was up there every day they were building the jail. The residents of Madison County knew we were building a jail. But when this jail was built, it's like, where's the money gonna come from? My mind goes back to, if the good man had figured up the cost of the house before he built it, he might not have built a jail as big.
I'm sorry. Current salaries in Madison County Sheriff's Department right now on the unamended budget, which means they have to be amended in the year because the budget has to be balanced, is $1,450,600 for salary. That doesn't include an additional $65,000 for a part-time salary. That's minus FICA, retirement, health insurance, and those type of things. When I was sheriff of Madison County, I recognized that our staff was woefully underpaid. First thing I did is I commissioned our detective office to go out and do a survey of the 10 departments closest geographically to the Madison County Sheriff's Department: Weaverville, Buncombe County, Asheville Police Department. We asked for a starting or hiring salary, a top salary, and a median salary. We averaged those. We took those and we went to the Madison County Board of Commissioners, said our officers, our detention officers, our jailers, our communicators were all underpaid. They said, sure, if we agree with you, but we don't have money to pay for it. I said, let me do that. I'll begin to house federal prisoners, and all I'm asking of you is to earmark that money so that we can do a salary adjustment to make sure we keep our good officers, our good detention officers, our good communicators. We're not giving those or training those for other places, and they agree. I had a mathematical formula. I knew how many prisoners per day that I had to house to be able to make that commitment, just like anybody would with a budget. I'm telling you now that, once again, as I look at it, people in the same positions, but any two people may be drawing different salaries from Madison County Sheriff's Department. I can tell you we have the highest paid sheriff in the history of Madison County. We have the highest paid chief deputy in the history of Madison County. We have the highest paid captain in the history of Madison County. Our detective officers make more than any detectives in the history of Madison County. You go back and look at our patrol division, our communicators, our jailers, our road officers, flat, no increase. They're saying they were making when I left. So I'll tell you,
This question will be, of course, directed to both of you, but I'm so sorry. Yes, my fault.
I can tell you that in 2010, I returned money, I balanced my budget. 2011, I returned money, I balanced my budget. 2012, 2013, I balanced my budget. And I'm on target this year to balance my budget. I can also tell you that my opponent's budget, when he went into the office, was $606,993. I can tell you that when he left in 2010, his budget was $2,167,000, a 290% increase. Hey, I might be the highest paid sheriff in the state, but he was the highest paid sheriff in the state prior to me leaving, and we've only got a 1% pay raise since he's been gone.
if I might, I would like to point out, and this is documented, that oftentimes I was the 98th lowest paid sheriff in the state when I was first elected. I turned down salary increases. Commissioner Hall Moore sitting back there, I remember very famously what my father said. He went to my father and said, John Ledford had a good job. We'd like to give him a salary increase. And he still laughs today. He says, my father said, what's he gonna do with it? Buy more suits? My dad didn't believe in that, and I didn't believe it. Oftentimes when I was given increases, I shared them. They were given back to the deputy sheriff. So me taking the pay raise, I gave a percentage of it to each deputy in the department. I'm not criticizing anybody for trying to better themselves. I'm just simply telling you that we've got to make sure that we're going to give an increase to the top part of the department. We've got to take care of the people who are out there doing the work, the ones who are riding the roads at night, raising their families, Always been a focus of mine, always will be.
All right, this is a brand new question. Mr. Ledford, could you tell us what the budget was for the last year you served as sheriff?
Sure, all it's $2.1 million. That sounds about right. The biggest increase, I believe, since the time I left has been in staffing and operations of the new detention facility. And that, and that's reason. If you would take that part away, I think it would pretty well, the department would fall back pretty well in line to where it is now, except for some pay raises and some other things like that.
Sheriff Harwood, then, could you tell us what the current budget of the Madison County Sheriff's Department is?
Just told you. It was $2.8 million.
If I buy it though, that's unamended. Now, last year, 2013, it drifted up over $3 million. That's according to the revenues expense report I've been provided by the Madison County Finance Office. So what I'm telling you is this, the Sheriff's Department's budget is a moving animal. It can go depending on sickness or number of inmates, housing, it can go up or down. That's pretty close.
And what you gotta realize too, when I use Clyde Gregory as an example, if I arrest Clyde on a major crime, when we bring Clyde in, Clyde has a heart attack while he's in our county jail, and we go to a judge and cannot get him out of jail, Clyde has to have a bypass surgery. Guess who pays for that bypass surgery? It's those uncontrollable expenses that, hey, we can't control. Running a jail is a big black hole, because you've always got medical expenses coming up. Always got stuff tearing up and going into this new jail. First year we were clicking, everything was under warranty. As soon as the warranty run out, guess what happened? Stuff starts tearing up. It's gotta be fixed.
And I will just add to that, if I might, there's been an additional captain's position added to the Madison County Sheriff's Department who oversees the detention facility. In Buncombe County, they have a unit, or I assume they still have a unit called pretrial release. But what we always practiced when I was sheriff, we tried to anticipate those who were gonna have medical conditions and tried to get them out so they were not incarcerated in our facility, whether they were pregnant, major heart conditions, those things should be screened. Sometimes they've committed the crime so serious you can't get them out, but you've got to keep an eye on the inmate population daily as it comes in, and that involves the captain's position as a responsible governor.
Thank you. Just as a little addendum here, we want to make certain that we honor good manners and not interrupt. So we just would ask graciously to let one finish their complete time before the second one can respond. Thank you so much. And now I'm so confused, I don't remember what it was. I do remember that. All right. Mr. Ledford, what changes would you make to the sheriff's office?
I'd instill two changes almost immediately. First thing I would change is the way the investigations, drug investigations are carried on throughout Madison County. I'm a graduate of the DEA, 72nd class of Drug Unit Commanders Academy, and have extensive training in how most places conduct drug operations throughout the country. Madison County Sheriff's Department currently encourages or employs a technique known as control buy, using informants. We have drug users buying dope off of drug dealers and vice versa, and then they're allowed to testify or give testimony in court. I don't like that. That's not a standard practice. I employ as director of ALE. I like the method of undercover law enforcement officers making those buys. I know there was a situation here in Madison County where there were dozens of felony cases at one time dismissed because of some type of problems with the investigation. So I think you have to be exceptionally careful when you take a testimony under oath of people in those type of situations. Second thing I would employ is a new policy dealing with media. I've learned my lesson in Raleigh dealing with the media. We had special PIOs within the department. I think what you need more than anything is that you have to be careful what you say to the public. I think you can damage your case very quickly when you start speaking about ongoing or current investigations. I think probably the best thing I would do, put yourself in a family's place here in Madison County, either as a victim or as a family member of a perpetrator. It's highly publicized on the front page of the paper. It's almost like a different punitive, some type of punitive action. And on top of that, when a sheriff's department official makes a comment, somebody confessed, or this is the evidence, or whatever the case may be, we didn't allow that in Raleigh. I've learned a lot in those 4 years in Raleigh. There's a reason for that. Dealing with criminal investigations and federal investigations, you know, have a lot of time to speak to PIOs, U.S. Attorney's Office, leaders of other state law enforcement. So those are the first 2 changes I make, the way drug investigations are conducted and the way media relations are carried out.
Repeat that question.
What changes would you make to the sheriff's office?
Well, we're daily making changes, try to make your life easier, try to make it Madison County a safer place to live. And for those dozens of cases that were dismissed, it was not because of irregularity. They were simply because the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation was so far behind in the processing of illegal drugs that the district attorney of the state dismissed those cases because a time period had elapsed for so long that we did not have the evidence back from the SBI lab. Those cases have since been re-indicted, and to my knowledge, most of them have been adjudicated.
All right. Sheriff Harwood, as sheriff, what are your thoughts on in-county hiring and out-of-county hiring?
Whenever I became sheriff, we had 31 employees. 45% of those employees, only 45% of those employees were from Madison County. As of today, we have 43 employees. 77% of those employees are from Madison County. 77% of those employees are from Madison County. And out of those 77%, 13 of those employees have some type of high school diploma to include associate's degree, bachelor's degree, or master's degree. First thing I look at when I begin to hire somebody, number 1, are they a resident of Madison County? Number 2, are they qualified to do the job? That's the things I look at.
I'd like to see a time when Madison County Sheriff's Department, all the employees are from Madison County. I think if we have that come to work, we'll start to begin to work with high schools to identify people that want careers in law enforcement, encourage them to pursue those careers. We've got early college, we've got AV Tech, a lot of different things we can do to identify, like a farm system in baseball, and work them up through the system and bring them into Madison County. So here's what I'll point out to you about Sheriff Harwood's department. He does, I assume, have 77% of his employees, but look at his highest paid reports. 2 of his 4 command staff, 2 captains, 1 from Yancey County, 1 from Buncombe County. They don't reside in Madison County. Of his detectives, I think there are 3 detectives, 2 of those reside outside Madison County. So of your top 5, 10 highest paid positions, they're not in Madison County.
Like I said, 77% of the people that I hire from Madison County. My chief deputy's from Madison County. So 77% of the people we hire are from Madison County. Sometimes, you know, you have to go across the border to find a qualified employee.